Hey, so I've got a medical condition that prevents me from finishing my breakfast without going down a rabbit hole on the internet. And so this is a video about today's rabbit hole, which is generally forever chemicals, the perfluoroalkyl substances, which have been in the news over recent years. So these are the super water repellent chemicals that were used to make Teflon, to keep those disposable paper cups and takeout food containers waterproof, used to make carpets resist stains, and they're also used as a surface coating on Gore-Tex, for example, so um, outdoor clothing. And so the thing I was wondering this morning is, well, what's the status of Gore-Tex jackets now that these forever chemicals have been recognized as problematic? Okay, so this specific compound that's used for that, it's called a DWR, durable water repellent coating that goes on the outside of fabrics to make them resist water. The chemical that was used for a long time for those jackets and for lots of those other applications is called perfluorooctanoic acid, PFOA. Just call it C8. And so the reason it's called C8 is because it's a molecule made up of 8 carbon atoms in a row, and to each of those carbons is attached 2 fluorine molecules. So if you think about a molecule with 8 carbons in a row like that, but hydrogens, so 18 hydrogens attached to 8 carbons, that's called octane. And it's a component in gasoline, and it's a naturally occurring hydrocarbon. Although if you dig up all the octane that's been buried under the Earth's crust over 250 million years and burn it all at once, you run into a different problem, different rabbit hole, different day. But so that's if you take octane and replace 15 of the hydrogens with fluorines and stick a couple oxygens on the end, you wind up with C8. This stuff that makes your jacket waterproof, makes your Teflon pan not stick, and so on. So C8 has been investigated pretty thoroughly, just coming out of the whole Teflon discussion. And curiously, there was a science panel assembled as part of the outcome of a lawsuit against DuPont about these compounds and whether they caused harm. So the C8 science panel. And they looked at a whole bunch of all the research to be done on the subject, sort of put it all together in one pile, and came to the conclusion that C8 was probably linked to kidney cancer, testicular cancer, inflammatory bowel disease, thyroid disease, high cholesterol, high blood pressure during pregnancy. And, one imagines that's probably not the full list. Basically, what they did is looked at people who lived around, for example, a Teflon factory and who were exposed to quite high levels of this stuff, and identified that these conditions were pretty common around there. So it's pretty gnarly stuff, and as a result, governments around the world have moved to make its manufacture illegal. So then what happens to your Gore-Tex jacket? Okay, so a quick Google search of DWR finishes and their current status led me to statements by 2 outdoor clothing manufacturers, Patagonia and MEC. So MEC used to be the Mountain Equipment Co-op in Canada. It was bought out by a private equity group recently, so we can just abbreviate it as MEC Corp. And so it started out as just curiosity. What's the status of my Gore-Tex jacket if I buy a new one? What have the C8 compounds been replaced with these days? And it sort of turned into a whole rabbit hole about linguistics and language manipulation and all these sorts of things. So I'm just going to read highlights from the 2 statements to compare and contrast, starting with the titles. Patagonia's statement: is entitled Our DWR Problem. Right away. First three words, problem. Okay, ours. MEC Corp entitles their statement DWR and PFCs, so polyfluorochemicals. So what is actually the subject of it? Unclear. Okay, so to the text of the statements, starting with Patagonia. Patagonia, as well as other high-quality outerwear suppliers, for years relied on a DWR of a certain chemistry to beat up and disperse surface moisture from rainwear. The DWR we used was a long-chain C8 fluorocarbon-based treatment. Unfortunately, its byproducts are toxic and persist in the environment, a combination that makes it unacceptable. Despite its excellent performance, governments around the globe have now required chemical companies to stop making C8 DWR. So that's Patagonia's introduction to the subject. Here's MEC's introduction to the subject. If you're looking at outdoor gear, you've probably seen the words DWR in many product descriptions. And okay, so they've already pissed me off because it sounds like they're trying to sell me something. Hey, if you're looking for outdoor gear, the application of DWR requires complex chemistry and expertise to apply correctly to make them effective, which has what to do with anything. The subject is, what do these things do to our world? And what are we doing about that? Oh, we're so it takes all this complex chemistry and expertise to apply them correctly. In the first paragraph. Okay, sure. Although the presence of PFCs, perfluorochemicals, on garments does not pose a direct consumer health risk. It's like, well, didn't we just list like all the cancers and inflammatory bowel disease? I mean, is MEC Corp really in a position where they ought to be telling us about what is and isn't safe in terms of chemicals? And I don't know. Feels like they've stepped outside their area of knowledge there. Okay, so MEC Corp goes on to say, although it's fine for consumers, the release of PFCs into the air and water during manufacturing can lead to environmental contamination. So just compare those words. Can lead, not does lead, because it does, right? Environmental contamination, compare that to Patagonia's statement. C8 is toxic and persists in the environment. It's unacceptable. It's toxic, not can lead to environmental contamination. Why downplay? What's the goal there? So obviously C8-based DWR finishes are no longer being manufactured. It's illegal. So then what are these companies doing? That was the original question halfway through breakfast. So says Patagonia. Patagonia's temporary solution, which is also being adopted by a number of other manufacturers, is not good enough. That's their words. But it's the best option we have so far. So their argument is, well, we can sell you a jacket with some nasty stuff on it, which might last 10 years or 15 years, or we can sell you a jacket with a waterproof finish that's based on wax or silicone or something like that. It won't last as long, and so you'll throw the jacket out after 2 years, and that has an environmental cost because there's all the manufacturing and the landfill and everything else associated with the consumption. So you got a choice between two bad things. This is what they've chosen to do. Going on, we have switched from a C8 based treatment to a shorter chain C6 treatment, also fluorocarbon based, but with byproducts that break down faster in the environment and with less potential toxicity over time to humans, wildlife, and fish. So after learning from MEC Corp that these chemicals are safe to have on your jacket, and they might lead to environmental contamination, we go on to read MEC Corp has been building out a robust chemical management program geared towards continuous improvement. What a string of words. What the hell does that even mean? Building out? I mean, the rest of us, we just develop programs, but they build them out apparently. A robust chemical management, as opposed to what, week one, uh, uh, geared towards continuous improvement. Well, like no shit, Sherlock. Like what does that mean? Doesn't say anything. It's not information, but it sounds really bro. Okay, so MEC Corp's take on the transition. In 2016, we permanently phased out the use of long chain C8 DWR. Um, Makes it sound like someone took initiative there, like MEC Corp looked at it and went, hey, let's do the right thing. That's actually when they became illegal. So, I mean, they don't say we took initiative, but we permanently phased out. Yeah, you didn't phase out, you couldn't buy it anymore. You know, Patagonia is like, this freaking sucks, man. We got rid of the real nasties, but we're still using these fluorocarbon-based treatments, and we're going to keep working on it till we're not. And MEC is like, oh, let's downplay this. You know, first of all, let's distract and talk about we're broing out a robust chemical management program. You know, let's take credit where credit isn't due, or imply credit where credit isn't due. Let's just distract everybody with expertise to apply complex chemistry. You know, let's do everything except say that there's a problem and we haven't solved it yet. I mean, it's not like the two companies are doing different things in the end, because they've both explored the options and these are the options. But one's being honest about it and the other's trying to manipulate you into feeling like everything's awesome, bro. It's all good. You know, it isn't. So, just one thing, Patagonia, while I've got you on the line. If you really want to reduce the environmental impact of your line of business, which I believe is true, put better zippers on your things. I mean, here's my Patagonia vest. Zipper lasted about 2 years, and you know, I sewed on an ugly one, did a nasty job of it, but that was about 10 years ago, and the vest is still going great. You know, down in that vest is probably good for 20 years. Zipper was good for 2. So many Patagonia jackets get put in a closet and ultimately thrown out because the zippers wear out when the fabric to which they're sewn is still perfectly good. So, Patagonia. And by the way, I don't know what happened to the takeout containers that are so hydrophobic the water just beads up on those paper containers these days. They're not using C8 anymore in there. I don't know what they are. People in my local coffee shop don't know what they are. The manufacturers of those cups aren't super transparent on their websites about what's going on there. So just, you know, be aware. Your paper coffee cup is totally waterproof. Just saying. All right. Till tomorrow's breakfast.